Okay, I think that'll come through momentarily. So my name is Meredith Tretiak, so I'm head of marketing at Livepeer. I've been in the Web3 space for about a year, so my background before this was a lot about mobile apps. So I worked at, yeah, those are our faces. So I worked at Disney, I worked at EA, launched a bunch of mobile apps. Some of them that you may have heard of include Scrabble and Monopoly. Occasionally I'll see people playing on the subway and I'm like, yes, I was a part of that team, right? Yes, these are fun games. So I came into Web3 about a year ago. I'm always passionate about like what's the latest technology and what's the consumer experience. And so I came across Livepeer and I'm like excited to work with this team and really create Web3. So that's a little bit about me. And this is Eric.
All right, and my name is Eric Tang. I'm the co-founder and CTO at Livepeer. I've been working in the New York startup ecosystem since 2007, and we really started building Livepeer in the early 2017. At the very beginning, it was kind of an experiment to build video streaming into the Ethereum core tech stack. And it's been about 5 years since we've built this. Now we have kind of a interesting global network infrastructure, people streaming video. There's about millions of minutes that's coming through the Livepeer network on a weekly basis, and thousands of participants around the world kind of participating in this community, which is really exciting. And at the core of Livepeer, it's really about self-expression and giving everybody on the internet a voice, an opportunity to be heard, right, in this decentralized context. And that's really important to me personally. I grew up playing music, and I actually met my wife doing improv at the Upright Citizens Brigade, right? And so the New York kind of creator ecosystem is really near and dear to my heart. So it's really exciting to be talking about Web3 and creators today.
All right, so what are we going to talk about today? So we have a few topics that we want to touch on. So the first is, why are creators interested in Web3? Then we'll talk a little bit about social and video and the history. Then go into the types of creator applications we see coming out today. And then a little bit about NFTs and what they could be. So starting is, why are creators interested in Web3? And a lot of this is, a lot of people here are connected to the space in some way, but in the creator ecosystem today, you do have these centralized authorities like YouTube and Twitch and Facebook, right? But when you talk to artists, what they really want is kind of what they always really want. They want to connect to their audience. They want to express something that connects to other people and that they feel something from their work, right? And what happens today is that YouTube is kind of that intermediary, right? So there's not this direct connection, both in terms of, being limited by how that technology was designed, that it only facilitates certain types of interactions. And then it's also just also understanding how connected that person is to you, right? You don't have like kind of that personal information about who is your fan, right? And that can all change with Web3 and what Web3 makes available. So part of this is really artists wanting to share authentic experiences with their communities, and also a lot of times inviting fans into that creation process with them, right? And so it's all about that community engagement. And what's possible with Web3 platforms is enabling that connection without that barrier, without that intermediary. This is not working again. 1 second. Right? Every time. Okay, so storytelling with video, right? We all experience video. I'm sure most of us have Netflix. Most of us stream on YouTube, right? We are all connected to video, but what's really powerful about this medium is its storytelling capabilities. So video as a format, right, kind of connecting this to, existing content, but also Web3, right, it's a place to express, right? And it's about evoking emotions or having that connection. And video NFTs is a lot like what's possible within that in like kind of the Web3 realm, is actually creating a piece of art that other people can engage with and experience. The next one is video to engage, right? So if you are a creator and you have fans, creating a space to engage with them. So it's inviting fans to the studio, having them in that experience, sharing with them your creation process, right? Creating that connection with your audience and that collaboration, right? And maybe you have super fans who, like, you know, if you're a musician, they understand, you know, musical concepts and can give you feedback, right? So there's a lot of, you know, different types of fans, but it's creating this experience that is direct, right, between you and that community. And then the third one is reaching new fans. So it's like creating video content to reach new people to bring into your community. And that's like sharing with a broader audience. So some tools to connect in Web3. These are functionality that we see in creator applications now that are becoming pretty common. One is token gated content. So when you want exclusive access for whatever reason, whether it's a certain type, you know, for your super fans, so just creating, or like some kind of limited time experience. There are a lot of ways to use token gated content. Of course, NFT drops, which are purchasable, which you can, you know, trade, or whatever your motivation is with NFTs, but that's a part of owning part of that experience. We also have social tokens, and then also, of course, Web3 platforms and social graphs, where social graphs are different than Web 2 because you can see, you know, how much is this person engaging with your content? How are they engaging in the community with an open social graph? And with that, I'm going to hand things over to Eric.
All right. I want to take just a quick look to set some context around the history of social and online video. Right, it's by no means complete, but I think it's important for us to think about how we got to where we are today, where you know, we have a couple of big social platforms and video platforms that own most of our attention. Right. So YouTube started back in 2005. It immediately became successful, which is a very rare thing. Usually, you know, startups takes a long time. They were actually pivoting from a dating website that wasn't working out that well, and they decided, you know what, we're not going to do the dating thing. We're just going to keep this one feature, which is allowing people to upload videos into their dating profiles, and it immediately blew up. Within a very short amount of time, it became the number 5 most popular website in a short span of 18 months. Right. And so if we look at YouTube, it's a pretty interesting story. They were only independent for about 2 years as a company. They raised a little over $10 million. At the point of acquisition by Google, they were burning $2 million a month just on their infrastructure bill because it was so expensive. This was, you know, 2000. This is pre-inflation, right? And they were acquired by Google in 2006 for $1.65 billion. And soon after that, they started doing their kind of rev share ad model, which was introduced in 2007. Right? Another interesting story, Twitch, which happened to be founded in 2007, used to be called Justin TV. It started out as a experiment by Justin Khan, who strapped a webcam on his baseball cap and walked around and just live streamed his entire life, right? What he realized is, you know, it was actually not that interesting, so people started adding other types of content onto it, but immediately, you know, they ran into legal troubles, right? People were live streaming all kinds of illegal content. They were getting DMCA takedowns to the point where the CEO had to go testify in front of Congress. This was, I think, in 2010, 2011. And you know, because of that, because all of these challenges, the business wasn't growing that well. And in 2011, they realized that, you know, we have to change, and maybe. So let's take a look at, like, who are our most engaged users and people who are, you know, staying on the website the longest. It turned out is these people who are really weird and playing video games online and watching each other playing video games online. Right? How strange is that? And they were like, okay, like, let's try to kind of focus on it and see what happens. And eventually became so successful that they spun out Twitch from Justin TV in 2011, and they really focused on just creating that application for that demographic and make that really successful. And that created this whole esports industry that we see today. Right? An interesting story. Twitch was acquired by Amazon in 2014 for $1 billion. And at that time, it was the largest deal that Amazon has ever done. Took about 20% of the cash position. And of course, the second place bidder was Google. They were trying to own the whole thing. And another interesting story, Netflix. We see the quotation here. It's inspired by YouTube. Why was that? Well, because Netflix was actually started in 1997, right? They were a DVD rental business where you rented, people sent you DVDs in over snail mail. And they IPO'd in 2002 and did really well as a company. And in 2007, they realized that that YouTube became so successful that they had to be in the video streaming game. So they launched their streaming service in 2007, and within a short span of 3 years, that new business surpassed their DVD rental business in 2010. Right? They started doing major streaming deals with IP holders right about that time. They started producing their own content in 2013. And in last year, 2021, they spent $13.6 billion on content creation alone. Right? At the peak, Netflix is about 19% of all the internet's traffic, which is astounding. Right? Another quick story: TikTok, which started much more recent, and it really is inspired by mobile computing. Right? They started in 2016. From a company in China called ByteDance, and ByteDance has been around for a long time, built some really successful mobile apps before they started building TikTok, and one of their really strong, the strongest teams inside ByteDance is this AI team that created the most popular news reader called Toutiao, which is, and they used AI to kind of curate people's news feed, right? So when they started TikTok, TikTok was almost an immediate success just because the AI algorithm was so good, and inside China it became very successful very quickly, and to expand overseas, they merged with another company called Musical.ly in 2018. And in 2021, they became the most popular website in the world, right, surpassing Google. Interestingly, they launched they started to get into the creators game also. Last year, they launched a $200 million creator fund in 2021, even though with mixed reviews, but they're kind of iterating on that, right? So what are some of the lessons that we learned? Well, there's three that I want to get into. One is that video is really driven by creators, right? None of these platforms actually hire people to create their own content. Even though they have a huge budget, all they do is they go to creators and they buy content from creators that then stream on their own site, right? So we see YouTube paid out $30 billion last year, in the last 3 years to creators, right? And these are huge numbers. Disney has paid $33 billion in 2021 to create content, right? So they all understand how important creators are. They have these huge budgets. And video is everywhere, right? I think we already know this. Video is in our daily entertainment, in our education systems, in e-commerce. It's in our personal communication. It accounts for 80% of the internet's traffic today, right? So it's basically the whole internet, right? And video is highly centralized. We talk about some of these centralized platforms, right? So if we look at the amount of creators around the world, so there's about 50 million content creators around the world that people kind of self-identify as content creators. If you look at the breakdown, over 90% of them are on the three major platforms. They're either creating for Instagram, or for Twitch, or for YouTube, right? And what this caused is a surveillance capitalism that we're living in today, because all of these platforms are monetizing the same way, which is through advertising, right? And because of that, all the algorithms on these websites maximize for people's attention, and they capitalize on that. So it becomes this kind of a vicious cycle, right? And we're starting to see all these new studies that are coming out of the problem with surveillance capitalism around privacy, around emotional health in teens, right? And all of these things are because of the very specific business model these large platforms are kind of following, right? And so, yeah, so with that, I want to pass to Meredith.
Thanks. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the types of creator applications that are emerging in Web 3. So in Web 2, how I kind of frame this is social networks were kind of the connection between individuals, right? It was, let me chat with my friends and family, or let me join a group of a shared interest, right? Web 2 technology was built by the few and adopted by many, right? And it kind of puts a certain view on how to create technology. And then kind of like from a personal perspective, right, is I connect with friends and family or around a shared interest. What I see really kind of coming out in Web 3 very strongly is that, one, this Web 3 is really building communities. And communities are all around identity and belonging. Like, I am part of something that is bigger than myself, right? I'm a part of a mission, or I'm part of a collective, and like we are accomplishing something together. And the big part there is also that Web3 technology is being built by that community, or that community has the opportunity to become part of building this technology, which I think is a huge shift from Web 2. And so Web3 features, just to point out a few things, is enabling new monetization models. Web3 infrastructure is kind of a silent differentiator that I think doesn't get as like tons of visibility or as much as it should. But really with Web3 infrastructure, with certain networks that are decentralized, including Livepeer, it actually reduces the cost to create these applications, right? So if you want a niche application, so we had Play DJ, right, which was an application that streamed DJs from their home, which gained a lot of traction during the pandemic. So it couldn't be successful on Web 2 because the infrastructure costs got so high. So they switched to Livepeer, it reduced the cost by 10x, and then it's kind of like, okay, there are actually different, niche apps that don't have to have the whole share of the world to exist and to be a place for that community to engage. And then the next part is content and audience portability, right? So a lot of times if you are on YouTube, if you are a YouTube creator, or if you're a Twitch streamer, or if you're an Instagram creator, you're really locked into that platform, whereas what's different with Web3 is you can actually have the content, own it yourself, and share it on multiple platforms, right? So it's a total shift from the platform lock-in that is present in Web 2. And so kind of looking at the apps that are emerging today, I did kind of a review of certain creator to community apps that I see emerging. And there are kind of 4 kind of criteria that I use to kind of formulate kind of the types that are emerging. So one is if they're on an open or closed network. The next one is how much discoverability they enable for the creator. The third is monetization options. And then the fourth is a level of community autonomy. And so I'll explain these a little bit. I know this is a little bigger there. So kind of notice there's kind of like these 4 categories that I saw a lot of apps fall into. So the first one is creator discovery platforms. So they are on an open network. So you can think of these like in the Web 2 paradigm, you kind of have YouTube, Instagram, and Vimeo, where anybody can see any content, right? And it's kind of open, and it's kind of with the social graph. And then with that, you have the platform monetization options. Recommendations are based on interest, so you have the algorithm. And then a lot of it's long form video. I say long form just to distinguish from, TikTok less than a minute. So long form is kind of, mid-length or very long. But you can kind of see some Web3 early players in that space of kind of, switching the paradigm, but having this type of framework. The next is short form video social networks. So I see this as an open network. Again, anyone can be on the platform. There's no platform monetization. TikTok is really about like sponsorships and things. Recommendations are based on interests and trends. And then these are very like short form and entertaining videos. And the only Web3 parallel that I'm aware of right now is Lens 2 Bytes. Next up is community content. And this one's different in that it's a closed network and there are platform monetization options. Like this is really about, the creator having a lot of power in their monetization options. The platform generally focuses on a specific type of content, right? So here I put Coursera, which is like educational. So the audience is specifically learners, right? And Twitch I include here. I know Twitch has expanded a lot, but especially for streaming gaming, right? It's the gaming community, right? And then for Web3, we have some players in this space where Streamy is all about content for like the Ethereum community. So it's a specific community and many creators. So it's like within a like shared interest that many creators can exist with a shared community. I also have creator cabins in there, and I also have the Lot Radio as a local player in the space, which is like the community around live streaming the DJ sets. And the next I have is niche community enablers, and we also see a number of these popping up where they're actually platforms for communities to exist, where a creator can create their own niche community, right? And so have all of the platform functionality, which is allowed, right? And that'll be built, right? Like whether it's a community platform to help connect through real life events or live streaming events or certain types of content. Those are specific platforms for a creator to create their own niche community. All right, back to Eric.
Okay, so we've talked about some of these categories of applications, comparing them in between Web 2 and Web 3. I want to jump into a little bit about an interesting Web 3 topic, NFTs, right? So a lot of people have heard about NFTs. This is kind of my personal point of views, right? So what are really NFTs? What do they really represent? Today we see a certain type of NFT, right? But if we try to look under the cover a little bit and think about what they really represent, to me it represents three things. One is, for the very first time, we have true ownership of digital assets that has never existed before, right? Until now, until blockchain existed, everything that happens in the digital realm belongs within the context of an application. And within the context of the application, it's always, the data is always owned by the owner of the application, right? So I use Facebook. My profile lives in the Facebook database. I don't really own the data that I have. However, NFTs represents a new paradigm in that my data is actually truly owned by me. It's not owned by a single application. And it sits in my wallet, and that wallet belongs to me because of cryptography, right? And that's a huge difference. The second thing is NFTs allows transfer and value exchange, right? And that's kind of spanning from this ownership. Ownership itself, it's interesting that you can own something, but what does ownership actually give us, right? Well, the first thing is the ability to transfer ownership and exchange value for that ownership. I can now give someone else the digital ownership of some asset that I own, right? And that's, again, also very unique. And the third thing, which we haven't seen a lot today, but I really believe is going to be a hugely interesting feature of NFTs for years to come, and that's this idea of digital transactions and provenance, right? So as these digital assets change hands, we start to create a trail of ownership, right? And that trail of ownership in itself starts to have interesting values and interesting capabilities. For example, if I own the NFT and then somebody, like a really famous NFT collector bought it from me, now just because the fact that this collector owned the NFT makes that NFT more valuable, right? So now we see, NFTs, this is what, we think of NFT, this is what we kind of think of, right? CryptoPunks, doodles, apes, cool cats, things like that, right? Like JPEGs, they have communities around them, and they're really interesting, and they create all these financial economic activities. But what's next? Where are we evolving, right? I have some guesses, right? And the interesting thing is you can actually assign meanings to NFTs, right? They're just digital references that sits on the blockchain. So what other meanings can we assign to these NFTs, right? Now they're kind of they signify belonging to a online community. But what else? What other things can we do? well, things starting to emerge, right? NFT as a shared memory. There's a project called POAP, where and it's kind of a simple idea where if I meet someone at a conference, I give them my POAP, and now they have my POAP that's represented as an NFT, and it's a shared memory that they have met me at this conference, right? And now people are starting to collect POAPs from different people and using that as a record to do more things, kind of do more things with the people that you shared POAPs with. NFTs can be social profiles of posts, right? Here is Lens protocol, which is an interesting protocol that sits on Polygon, right? They on the Lens protocol, every personal profile is an NFT. Every post that I make in the social graph is an NFT, right? So all of those become points of references that I can take with me into different social media applications. NFTs can be movie passes, right? Here's a movie that Kevin Smith recently released. It's a horror movie. It's really fun, and he launched it as an NFT so that only if you mint the NFT can you actually watch the movie, right? As an experiment and as a indie filmmaker, he actually did really well. He didn't have to sell his rights to a production house and only take a small percentage of the proceeds. Just put it online, shared it with the community, and NFT represents that. And now what he also gets is he gets a record of everybody who minted the NFT, and now for his subsequent movies, he now has a record of, who are my favorite fans? Who are my biggest fans? How can I connect with them just directly? Right? NFTs as concert tickets. There's an application called the 402. They help musicians do kind of concerts on, kind of moving off of Twitch. And if you want to see one of these concerts, you purchase an NFT for it. And kind of similar ideas to the movie pass. NFT as fan club memberships, right? We start to see applications that pop up like this, where if you're a creator, you can sell NFTs and really own that direct relationship with your fans, and you have a place online that you can bring your fans to. If this application doesn't work for you, that's totally fine. Just go use another application. You still have that direct relationship with your fans. NFTs and video, right? Here's an example called Glass.xyz. They are they're very focused on music video as NFTs, right? And that's a really interesting example. People put a ton of efforts in creating these really awesome music videos, and they're art pieces, and they're worth collecting. And we're starting to see these types of behavior emerge. So, yeah.
Great. One other thing with NFTs, we're going to put the display screens back up after the presentation, and when you are viewing that artwork, just note that is the 100 megabyte limit of an NFT. So one of the things with what's possible with Livepeer is you can actually mint an NFT of any size and length. So what's not happening today is, full-length films as NFTs, as 3-minute content creators for like influencers creating content of their experiences or whatever they want to share as NFTs, right? We're really limited by this 100 megabyte limit. So when you see the art displayed shortly, keep that in mind. Like that's what the 100 megabyte limit looks like. And so we wanted to share lastly just ways to join our community. So we kind of have a little call to action if you're a creator or you're a builder in the space. The first one I'll quickly mention, we do have a hackathon next month. So if you're interested in that type of format of involvement, we do have that. And then we're also launching a new program today called Livepeer Studio X Creator. And this is where we are seeking creators to create with us, like let's build together. So there are really two areas. Like one is this video NFT collection. So if anyone is interested in kind of breaking this 100 megabyte limit, we have creator@livepeer.studio reach out to us. We want to build that with you. We want to show what's possible with decentralized video and are looking for collaboration partners. And then the other one is apps for creators by creators, right? So like I mentioned earlier, you know, one guy somewhere built YouTube, a few guys somewhere built Facebook, right? Let's actually build the technology that's going to support the community and not just be given some technology that has a lot of side effects with it on the long term. Like, let's actually figure out what that can look like in Web3 together. So that is us. Thank you for listening. I'm going to hand things off to Jia, and she's going to talk about Playground for a few minutes, but definitely we're around. So I'm here from Livepeer, Eric's here, Doug, CEO and founder, is also here. So feel free to talk to us about anything related, and really glad you all came tonight. So here is Jia.
Hello, thank you so much for co-hosting Livepeer. It's so inspiring to hear your stories, and I know that I contacted you because we're really excited to build on your tech stack. And all of those amazing examples that you talked about, I definitely think was a perfect setup for what we're doing at Playground. So Playground is an idea, first and foremost, that the whole world's a community. It's a playground. There's always new things to do together and communities to join and new people to meet. And we're here to build a more inclusive platform that's decentralized. So we bring people together. Our platform brings creators, artists, brands to create community, connect through shared experiences. We think that it's through active experiences, face-to-face like this, that we deepen relationships, whether that's online, if it's hosted in a virtual live stream or a virtual event in the multiverse, or real life. We're a Web3 platform on a mission to create a world where everyone belongs and all sorts of spaces are created. So what Livepeer was saying, everything in Web3 is community-centric, and we find that in this space, there's a couple of pain points. Two that we're here to address is, the first one is discovery. I think I was just talking to someone in the audience earlier where they were trying to find a community of second-time founders that are looking for, their second company. But like, where do you go to find your interest-based communities or those movements? Right now, it's really fragmented. And then on the other side, how do you build community? It's very difficult. All of the tools for your memberships, for your relationships, like how you stay in touch as a community, how you gather at events, how you do your drops and projects. Each single tool that they mentioned is a project you can stitch together and collaborate with, but right now they're all on separate platforms, so kind of doing it yourself is really painful if you're growing and building your own community. So yeah, again, these are kind of what the experience looks like right now if you're trying to discover a community, right? Like, where is your community? Is it in a Telegram chat? It's in an Eventbrite link? Your memberships are in one place, and wherever it's hosted, is your community in one metaverse? Is it in all of them? It's probably in multiple places, and it's definitely meeting up in real life. So how do you tell people from a home base what your community is up to and a place for your members to connect? And again, here are all the tools that many of you community organizers might be familiar with. You were putting Eventbrite links into a chat gets lost in the thread, or telling people to join your project, and it's hey, like, I'm dropping something, and that link also gets lost in the thread. And then anyway, it's definitely a pain. And so you all know what Playground is. This event was ticketed on Playground, but I'll just go through it very quickly. On our homepage, we want to feature projects and communities in culture. So across art and wellness and music and film, sort of be the discovery hub of Web 2.5 and Web 3 cultural communities. So we feature the communities and all the drops happening inside those communities, so you can see what's happening in the space. On our discovery page, it'll get more sophisticated, but similar to Spotify, like, how do you search for builder communities or women in Web3 communities or travel communities? This can all get more and more sophisticated, but you kind of want like a centralized discovery hub or an entry point into the multiverse of all this activity. So what does a homepage look like? We're a home base for your community where you can connect with members and chat with each other, but also almost see like a bulletin, a community bulletin of all of the activities. So we're experience-based. We think that communities that are built off just pure content, like passive consumption, isn't inspiring participation. So everything on your Playground page is incentivized for you to play. It's something you can do right now. It's an event you can attend. It's a drop you can participate in. It's an NFT you can collect right now. So this is an example of how you can connect with everyone in a community, how you can set up your conversations in a cleaner space than some of these other platforms. I won't mention them. But yeah, and then on Playground, I mentioned you can do all sorts of drops. So on the Playhouse page, which you entered this event through, you can drop an event, but you could drop a virtual event as well, and that might be live streamed on platform like Livepeer, which we're actually actively building. You can launch your next video, podcast, article, NFT, and more. So we really think that a community is self-expressed in many, many ways and through many types of content. Also, I think Livepeer touched on this, but NFTs do multiple things right now. Like they mentioned POAP, they mentioned movie memberships, they mentioned a lot of use cases. So on Playground, you most likely have NFTs already. They're minted somewhere else, but you can gate your own community with your own NFT. So soon, if Playground was to give all of our members our own NFT, then you could access kind of Playground Underground stuff or like future events where it's exclusive to just NFT holders. And then quickly, all the tools to build a community. There are so many. We built a few just foundational tools, an overview, a CRM, so you know who your members are, like what chapters of your community exist where, all of the members and how they came through. Was it through memberships or was it through, a one-off event? And I know that each tool, there's some people and projects even in this room that are building one specific tool, and that's where Playground can, kind of decide like what we build on our own, but versus the fun of Web3 and the magic of Web3 is like, where can we integrate with other people building this one tool really, really well. One easy place to token gate your content or put it behind a paywall or publish, edit, delete it, whatever. It's a great, simple portal to manage your page. And analytics. This is a place where we're integrating with people within the Animoca portfolio that just do community analytics, Web 2, Web 3, on and off chain. But you can really learn about your community, the health of it, how much revenue you're making, how many people are engaging, what other communities are they into, so that you can almost identify other communities you might want to collaborate with in your marketing efforts, for example. So our analytics are getting more and more robust as well. Lastly, this event was ticketed on Playground, but soon it will be NFT ticketing. And I'll go into this a little bit because this is where it starts to get more Web3. Ticketing is access to events, and it's also identification. So there's a lot of utility in terms of the utility side, where it's, can you trade a ticket, for friends that didn't make it and they instead gave your ticket to you. That's a really interesting use case. Or fractionalization, you may want to buy one ticket out of a multi-day event. But then also there's a lot of memories that are stored here. So Eric sort of talked about this, where shared experiences, shared memories, all the metadata, like the songs that were playing at a concert, the people who attended, the videos that were collectively taken of an event. It can tell stories and release experiences as part of an NFT ticket. So the whole point of building on top of other projects or tool stacks like Livepeer is really so that it's not owned by just one centralized organization. So we're really a Web3 community platform that's here to be giving power back to creators and the communities that are building on Playground. So I wanted to bring this up because we're building on top of Livepeer. Here's an example of how we're building with so many different types of communities, one of which is Livepeer. So if you drop a virtual event, let's say, it could be hosted in any metaverse, but if it's on Playground, then it's probably a live stream virtual event, right? And in that case, do we want to use like an integration with Zoom, or do you want to build on top of Livepeer, in which case the collaborations and like the synergy is much greater, and that's what's fun about building together. And also, if you drop a video on Playground, that'll be on top of Livepeer's tech stack. So definitely, I'm excited to have multiple, product integrations. This is just like one of many that we're planning. So why would we build on top of tech stacks that are decentralized or Web3? Is that ultimately we can, reward communities and give them ownership and all of the utility that's to come with NFTs and tokens. So on Playground, you might notice if you go into your account, it's the beginnings of this ecosystem starting to play out. There's a play board where you have points just for joining a community or for coming to events. This is your time, and this is you kind of participating in our community. And the more you play on Playground, the more play points you earn that are rewards within the entire platform, and rewards within the communities on the platform that participate in our partnership program. Rewards might include travel rewards, because we're all about experiences and exploring and sharing experiences. So to be able to travel, that's a program people are already familiar with, but it's also part of our ethos. And to be able to travel and meet up with the same community but at the next city is really, really fun. So stuff like that we can make happen because of who our investors are. For example, Expedia is a client of Anomaly, and that's the office we're in right now. And there's a lot of brand relationships around. So it'll get really fun the more partners join our ecosystem. Then ultimately, ground coin means you're on the ground like today. We're very early as a company, and you being here having this ticket means like we want to reward people with governance token, or the people that play the most and contribute the most to our ecosystem, build the most thriving communities on Playground. They should, have ground ownership. Yeah, and that's it. I'm the founder. Please feel free to come ask questions afterwards. We have an amazing team. Saurabh's in the audience. He's our CTO. Jason DeLand's my co-founder, partner, chairman, investor, and he is the founder of Anomaly, of the agency we're in now. So yeah, we have an amazing team. Please get to know us. You can follow us. Obviously, everyone that builds with us is part of the team. The community is on our team. We're a remote company and global in a way, very diverse, and would love to have you come join us. So thank you so much. Please stick around for the open bar and for the CEO of OpenSea, who will have a great chat with Eric in a few minutes. But thanks so much for coming.